I think it's an all hands on deck moment. I believe that President Trump's campaign needs to be doing everything in their power, and I'm sure they will. The RNC is now under new leadership, and it's important to have the RNC as strong as possible. Having the RNC, the Republican National Committee, strong is one thing, but in targeted states, we need the state Republican Party as strong as possible. You need, in targeted counties, the county Republican committees as strong as possible. So there's a lot of room for growth. We need to put aside conflict, competition, friction in an unhealthy way. It's time for all of us to be rowing in the same direction, working on that same target of winning this November.
All right, guys, a lot to get to today. Wow. Never a boring week, is it? And I've got some fun videos to show you, some announcements. I mean, this is, we got a lot to kick off the beginning of this week. So sit back and relax, because I got a lot coming your way. Before I do that, though, one thing that I hope doesn't come your way is a letter from the IRS. Now, if you guys have been following the Democrats, when they took over Congress, they had millions and billions of dollars to spend, and they spent it on IRS agents, like thousands of them, tens of thousands of them, in fact. And they are now sending out what they call 5,000 pay up, 5 million, kind of only 5,000 would be in jail, 5 million pay up letters. What does that mean? Well, if you didn't pay your taxes because of the pandemic, maybe, or some issues with having the resources and the funding, whether it's business or personal, they're probably coming after you. Whether it's 10 million or 10,000, they're going to find you. They're going to come after you. And before you speak to anyone from the IRS, before you take the phone call or answer that door, I suggest that you talk to my friends at Tax Network USA. And if you go to tnusa.com/Spicer or call 1-800-245-6000, you can talk to them. They are experts at dealing with the IRS. They've recovered over $1 billion for their clients. When you get that call or the letter from the IRS, remember, they're not there to have a block party or to invite you to like some kind of fun event. They're there to get money out of you, and they will squeeze you with all the resources of the federal government. You need someone with the expertise of Tax Network USA. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So please go to tnusa.com/Sean Spicer. If you owe money, 10,000, 10 million, it doesn't matter. Or if you know somebody who does. So please call them. All right. I want to get into one big thing off the top. I always tell you during the show, like, hey, follow me on social media. Here's why, blah, blah, blah. Here are all the places. Well, I'm going to show you right now why it's important that you follow me all across social media platforms. But in this case, Twitter. Take a look.
That's a great tweet. Who tweeted it? Sean Spicer? Danny DeVito? Nicole Byer? Or Jennifer Coolidge? Christopher, you were first.
I have to go with icon Jennifer Coolidge.
What?
All right, icon Jennifer Coolidge. Did Jennifer Coolidge tweet this?
No.
Oh, she is cool, but she didn't tweet it. Crystal, who do you think tweeted this?
Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Always Sunny and Wrong.
And Twins and a lot of other things. It was not. Time's ticking, Michael, if you want to guess.
Yes, Michael.
50-50.
Dude, I'm a eeny, meeny, miny, moe it. Sean Spicer?
Is it Sean Spicer for 200 more points? It was Spicer.
I don't know who that is.
What? You don't know who it is? I just got you 200 points. Well, I hope that just shows you. You never know when you're going to need something that I've tweeted out. So follow me across Twitter. Also, big announcement today. We're joining Substack. What does that mean? Well, if you go to SeanSpicer.com, my website, just sign up, subscribe. You can join our little VIP club here, get special insights and live shows. We do these on Monday nights now. So go to SeanSpicer.com. We're going to do one tonight, Monday night. We're going to do a special live event. So go to SeanSpicer.com, sign up, and be part of it. I think this is going to be fun. Always get some amazing insight from you. So go to SeanSpicer.com to do that. So you've learned a lot already. By the way, there's this letter, and some people have asked me about it, from Judge Marchant to the Trump campaign and the defense saying, oh, my cousin was on the jury and he told me that they were already going to vote guilty on the guy. The fix was in. Judge Marchant sends this letter to the defense team, Donald Trump's team, and to the prosecution, says, hey, guess what? It's been sitting around on our page for a while, this comment. I'm going to ask Lee Zeldin, Congressman Lee Zeldin. He is coming up. He's also an attorney. That's why I'm going to ask him about what should happen with this. So stay tuned for that. This is a big one. By the way, in polling news, and I'm going to try to do one of these 270 maps that we did a few weeks ago in the next month, probably. So stay tuned for that. That's why you hit the notification button, by the way. How does Trump get to 270? The numbers, I think, continue to flow his way. Virginia, the last time Virginia went Republican was 2004. Fun Sean Spicer fact. Write this one down. I was actually an elector and represented Virginia Electoral College in 2004, the last time that Virginia went Republican. It's now tied. Another poll coming out showing that it's tied in Virginia. This is big news that can't help Biden feel good. Minnesota, Virginia, I think New Hampshire are all in that bucket. Virginia, 13 electoral votes, Minnesota, 10, New Hampshire, 4. I'm just saying the map's getting bigger for Trump and smaller for Biden. This is good news for him. Now, do not take your foot off the pedal. We need to keep going. So I'm just letting you know that. The other big issue now is we're talking about from the Veep stakes world, people actually getting the vetting information. What does that mean? It means that when the campaign has started to actually identify people that they want to consider for vice president, they give them a package of information, personal data, tax returns, medical data, and ask them to fill it all out, get it back to the campaign so that they can review it. They want to make sure that that person is viable. They don't have some kind of medical condition, or if they do they acknowledge it? And can we work through this? How serious is it? On the financial front, are they sound? Do they have issues? Are they being sued? Have they paid their taxes? I mean, they go through all this vetting. There's a bunch of people that have been reported on 8 people that the media has claims, right? So it's J.D. Vance, Senator from Ohio, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, Senator Marco Rubio from Florida, who've already flagged, just as an FYI, and also Byron Donalds, Congressman from Florida. I've said that those two would have a constitutional issue because of the 30 electoral votes that Florida has, but just keep that in mind. Senator Tim Scott, okay, we've talked about him, South Carolina. Former HUD Secretary Dr. Ben Carson, close confidant of President Trump. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of New York. And Senator Tom Cotton, he's kind of the new add to the list, at least from a media perspective. I've always thought Tom Cotton, Arkansas senator, would be somebody, he's got a lot of military foreign policy experience. He'd be somebody that would be very formidable, definitely on board with the MAGA agenda, really smart guy. I still think Lee Zeldin is the dark horse. Now, I told you a long time ago, I mailed my pick off to producer Ronnie. He's got that sealed in a vault. It is guarded 24/7 by armed guards and people who know jiu-jitsu. No one is getting near that until it's revealed. But I do think that Lee Zeldin is one of my dark horses. You notice on that list, Sarah Huckabee Sanders not on that list. I think she's still on the list. It's Trump, guys. Remember, he likes to make an entrance. He likes the big reveal. And I think that part of what he wants to do is maybe do a little bit of optical illusion here. Look over here. Here's my VP over here. So I think that those are the names. The 8 names are all plausible. I think that they're great. Any one of them. You notice Kristi Noem not on that list. She was out there over the weekend cheerleading for Trump. I think she's trying to get back on the list, but if this report is any indication, she hasn't gotten the nod. So I'm going to ask Lee Zeldin point blank in just a second. Are you on that list? Because I think he'd be great. He did a phenomenal job. And the media, by the way, they keep talking about what will they add. They don't understand the role of VP. Right now, it is to be a force multiplier. And in Trump's case, it's to be somebody who can echo and amplify the America First agenda. Lee Zeldin would be great. And he showed it during the gubernatorial race in New York. Why? Because he understands how to be more inclusive, to go to places we haven't gone before, to sell a message that resonates with people. He's a white dude, right? But yet, look at how much support he got. Because if you have the right ideas, people, the media and the Dems are they think that everyone needs to be pandered to. And that's where they missed the boat here. This is about having smart ideas that resonate with people to make the country stronger, to make your community safer, to help you prosper, to help your kids advance in the next generation. people are a lot smarter than the media and the Democrats give them credit for. So I'm going to ask him a lot about that. I also want to show you when this, after my discussion with Lee, some of what happened in out in California, because I was surprised at the reception that Trump got. Also, speaking of that, I want to talk to you about a fundraiser that Jimmy Kimmel is hosting. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a host at ABC that's going to be hosting the first debate, having a fundraiser. Is there? Gosh, maybe. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Hunter Biden's trial. Plus, as I mentioned, Caitlin Clark left out. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Carter. I pay attention to all these comments that are in the feed when we go live on YouTube every night. And I want to give Carter, I'll leave the whole thing out, but it ends with 9974 but you'll see them every night. And as well as Hart Nixie and Barbara from Wisconsin. You guys are amazing. He's consistently reminded us to vote early in every episode. He's always on the premiere, 6 o'clock every night on YouTube and Rumble. And so Carter, please reach out to me at contact@SeanSpicer.com. I'm going to send you one of those MAGA hats, the original 2016 MAGA hats. You've been awesome. I want to appreciate all of you guys. And so thank you for him. And again, there's so many of you who join the premiere every night at 6 o'clock on YouTube and Rumble and share your thoughts and comments. I watch it with you. You know that. So please do that. And then again, tonight we're going live at 7. So thanks a lot for that. I want to get to this conversation with Lee Zeldin. Before I do that, though, I want to tell you about one other guy. You know who I'm talking about, Lee, that I've talked about so often, Leo Grillo from Delta Rescue. I'm constantly reminded how important people like Leo are in this world. When he founded Delta Rescue, he had one mission to help one dog. He was actually a Doberman, and he named the Doberman Delta, which literally is how he sort of realized this bigger mission at hand, to go out and to rescue neglected animals. It's not just dogs, it's cats, it's horses, you name it. If you go to deltarescue.org, you can see the videos that I'm talking about. Leo founded this as a no-kill shelter, no-kill sanctuary. God, I caught myself right there. Almost caught myself, Leo. That's the problem. Too many shelters. They take care of them, they look for a home, and if they don't, they euthanize them. Not Leo. No-kill sanctuary. He always reminds me of this. No-kill sanctuary for life. The veterinary care, the nutritional care that Leo provides them happens entirely because of the support of people like you and me. You and me. Yeah. Getting my grammar right on a Monday. Sorry about that. Still slow. Please go to deltarescue.org. Look at the videos. See if you can help make a contribution to sustain this mission. More importantly, what I'd really like to help Leo do, though, is make Delta Rescue an enduring mission. If you can go to the estate planning kit on Delta Rescue, take a look and see if it's okay for you to add it as part of your estate so that we can make the work that Leo has started at Delta Rescue an enduring one that goes on for decades and hopefully generations. DeltaRescue.org. Check it out. All right. Before I get to this, check this out. Lee Zeldin shows up at this rally that people just sort of literally was like a flash mob showing up for Trump. Lee shows up. Great thing. I want to show you that and then bring in our guest, Lee Zeldin.
It's Long Island Trump country. Yeah! Are we ready to fire Joe Biden? Yeah! Are we ready to make America great again? Yeah! Mr. President, and by Mr. President, I'm talking about Donald Trump. Long Island has your back. Yes,
Lee Zeldin, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be with you, Sean.
Yeah, so let me have you put your lawyer hat on for a second. I've gotten a lot of viewer questions about this letter that Judge Marchand sent both parties saying, hey, guess what we found? It just so happens that someone's tipping us off that their cousin was always going to vote no. Is this, I'm sort of perplexed by this, as I think a lot of the people that are emailing me saying, okay, what are we supposed to make of this? Is that a mistrial? Is that we have to investigate? Because it seems like the judge is saying, hey, just wanted to let you guys know about this.
Well, I think what the judge should do as soon as the judge first finds out about it is you take the post down, you save it, you investigate it, you're letting both parties know about all of the attention and focus and seriousness that you have on it as the judge to get to the bottom of it. Now, in this particular case, there's some evidence, some claims that maybe this is a person who is just talking trash. Maybe they don't have a relative that serves on the jury. That's different than if it's real. You do an investigation, you find out whether or not maybe this person does have a contact on the jury and whether or not there was inside information being shared in advance. So that has to get investigated. And then with that information, you're able to get closer to that answer with regards to your question. In one case, I think it's a clear-cut reason for a mistrial. If this is inside information of the jury being released to family members, friends, otherwise, then President Trump 100% should be granted a mistrial. If this is just some rando who's talking trash on a Facebook page and doesn't have any inside information, that's not as strong of a case as for a mistrial as the former.
Yeah, I thought to myself, it could be anyone just trying to store. But even in that case, then they themselves would be opening themselves up to a crime, right? I mean, if you start posting that you've got evidence of something of an ongoing investigation or an ongoing trial, aren't you then culpable of a crime?
Yeah, and not only that, if you don't face any type of repercussions, then people like this are more inclined to continue to do this further. So I think it's something that the judge should be taking very seriously and investigating, and not just leaving it for the government or the defense counsel to investigate. That shows a lack of seriousness on the part of the judge if the judge isn't very strongly leaning into wanting to get to the bottom of it himself very quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I like I said, I got a lot of emails over the weekend saying, "Hey, can you look at this?" And I said, "Well, Lee Zeldin's an attorney. He's going to be on." Because if I knew that, if I had just been convicted of a crime and I knew that the fix was in from the jump, I'd be like, okay, here's the evidence. And it doesn't seem like the judge is doing anything more than giving a heads up. So if you're Donald Trump's attorney right now, do you investigate, or do you say, "Hey, Judge Marchand, thank you. What are you doing?"
I think that the defense has no choice but to investigate it, because you can't assume or rely on this judge and this prosecutor to do anything at any point that could in any way, shape, or form possibly benefit the accused. So I think it's a responsibility on the part of the defense counsel because they have no other choice.
All right, let's talk about your neck of the woods. You almost overcame all odds and decades of history by winning the race for governor last time. You went everywhere. You worked your tail off. Trump has this massive rally in the Bronx the other day. What did you read into the support that was shown there in terms of the number and the type of people that had been there, voters, non-voters in the past, whatever?
Listen, there are times where I've gone inside of a room in Manhattan of conservatives, and you wonder whether or not we have all of the conservatives of Manhattan in one room, in that particular area. I think that this rally in the South Bronx wasn't a collection of every one of President Trump's supporters. I think it's a reflection of a much larger group of supporters than what you saw. So you see a massive outpouring of support, but I think it was a sign of there being much more than that. It was made up of people who are of different backgrounds, of people who are registered Democrats, people who have voted Democrat in the past, and they are citing particular issues for their purpose of supporting President Trump. This is not about being, blind partisan supporter of Republicans. When that Democrat shows up, they're talking about why they are a disenfranchised Democrat, why they are supporting President Trump, citing illegal immigration, the state of the economy, crime, energy policy, and more. And I believe that President Trump is resonating right now far beyond the base of tens of millions of Americans who voted for him in 2020. I see him expanding his support right now amongst Black voters, Hispanic voters, Asian voters, and many more longtime Democrat voters. I think that President Trump should continue to get inside of the bluest cities in America. I know this upcoming weekend, he's going to be giving a speech at the Turning Point event in Detroit. Keep getting into these blue areas, not just talking to Republicans who have always been there, but talking to these Democrats who maybe didn't even vote for him in 2016 or 2020.
We have a tenuous, at best, House majority, couple seats right now. a lot of people give you credit for that. Because had you not done as well as you did do in New York, seats like Mike Lawler and some of the other ones that were Biden districts would maybe not have flipped out if you hadn't had the turnout operation and the support that you did. What advice do you think that House Republicans need to take from that as they head into this election with this razor-thin majority?
Do everything in your power every single day, every minute to get out the vote. We need to lean more into early voting in states where they've legalized ballot harvesting like Nevada or California. We need to do it better than the Democrats to the point they regret legalizing it in the first place. In Pennsylvania, they've legalized universal mail-in balloting. I don't think it should be legal anywhere. I don't think ballot harvesting should be legal anywhere. Right. But where it is legal, we better need to do a better job at it. And this election that's 5 months away, I'm looking at it as an election that starts 3 months from now, once we get past Labor Day. So that's point number one, doing everything in your power until every last ballot is cast and counted. We have to run as a team, top down and bottom up. I think it's important for candidates out there to want to have President Trump as strong as possible at the top of the ticket. And I think it's a good thing for President Trump to have the rest of the candidates on the ballot everywhere across this country running as strong as they possibly can down ballot. And the third thing, and I'll just leave it at the top three, is I think that we need to be trying to win these races to have that next level of movement, momentum, outpouring of support and trust and faith and hope when we are talking about not just what we are against, but what we are for, outlining a vision of what we will do differently if given the opportunity to be in the majority, not just in the House, we have that now, but to have the majority in the House, the Senate, and most critically inside of the White House. What does that mean for that voter? What does it mean for that voter who cares about upward economic mobility, having a more secure border, having a strong foreign policy? It is our ideas that I believe that will put us in that next level of support, as opposed to just saying Democrats are bad, Joe Biden's bad, so vote for me.
I agree. I think having a positive agenda so people are voting for something matters. Bill O'Reilly was on the show last week, said Trump should put out what he calls a manifesto, 10 things. And he was very clear, no more, in perfect O'Reilly fashion, that he's for that. And I liken it to what Trump did in the 2016 campaign. He put out this list of judges. People knew exactly what that meant because he defined what his vision was. You knew what the kind of jurists that he would pick, which I think is important. Do you think this is like a Trump-led effort, what you're talking about, or is this a Republican Party-led effort?
I think it's an all-hands-on-deck moment. I believe that President Trump's campaign needs to be doing everything in their power, and I'm sure they will. The RNC is now under new leadership, and it's important to have the RNC as strong as possible. Having the RNC, the Republican National Committee, strong is one thing, but in targeted states, we need the state Republican Party as strong as possible. You need, in targeted counties, the county Republican committees as strong as possible. So there's a lot of room for growth. There's also a lot of outside groups. America First Works, for example, is a C4. I just referenced Turning Point, Faith and Freedom Coalition, Moms for Liberty. There are organizations that either now are out knocking on doors or are planning to be out there knocking on doors. And there are people who might be watching right now who are willing to leave your job for the next 5 months to help win this race. Please do, if you can, if you're in a position to. Maybe you're out looking for work. Get involved in these campaigns. We need that leadership to get over the finish line and first. Sign up as a poll worker. But if you think about everything that we're discussing here, it's not just about one of these entities doing everything that they can and carrying the entire load. It's about everybody working together. And the last thing I'll say about this is about 6-7 weeks ago, the FEC put out an opinion that for the first time ever allows coordination between the RNC, the Trump campaign, the NRCC, the NRSC, but also these outside C4s. Coordination as it relates to targeting and knocking on doors and whatnot. So I believe that we need to lean into it. We need to maximize our efficiency. And listen, you're a Navy guy, and I'm an Army guy. We're still friends despite that rivalry. And we believe that force multiplication is something that is extraordinarily powerful for our military. It's something that is incredibly important in politics, not to be inside of that foxhole fighting amongst yourselves, We need to put aside conflict, competition, friction in an unhealthy way. It's time for all of us to be rowing in the same direction, working on that same target of winning this November.
Yeah, I think part of the reason it works is because you get it. I mean, it's Navy then Army. I mean, I think that's, but I do want to tap into your experience on that front. I do worry with everything that's been happening and all of the munitions that we've sent overseas that we're not ready anymore. I read these stories about how we're ramping up this Cold War mentality of remaking bullets. And do you share a concern that we've looked out for everybody else? And I'm not saying that they don't deserve some assistance. I'm just saying that I feel like we've left ourselves naked. We're sending everybody else the aid and the munitions and the supplies and the artillery. And I wonder whether we're sitting around going, oh God, I hope no one comes after us.
100%. We need to first and foremost prioritize our own military, our own border, our own foreign policy, our own national security. That is priority number one. And when I hear Congress having a debate about another country's border, it's okay for us to have that conversation and people can share their thoughts wherever they are on these particular issues, but you better prioritize our own border first and foremost. You have to make sure that our military is as strong as possible always, and we can't be creating new vulnerability, new weaknesses for ourselves in an effort to try to make other people stronger. We have alliances. It's good for alliances to be made stronger. We have adversaries who understand that who need to understand that we are serious when we talk about consequences, whether it's Russia or North Korea or China or Iran, when they want to inflict harm that can adversely impact our country. It is important that we are treating friends as friends and adversaries as adversaries. But as we are approaching foreign policy, whether it's diplomacy, economic pressure, information operations, the military, and as you well know, it's called DIME, the Four Instruments of National Power: Diplomacy, Information, Military, Economics. We can't be pursuing this in a way that in any way, shape, or form makes our country weaker. It always needs to be about making our country first and foremost stronger.
I do wonder how many of your former colleagues in the House fully appreciate, I think, the lack of preparedness and readiness that we have exposed ourselves to because we've sent all of our stuff to other countries. We had this successful raid over the weekend where 4 of the hostages that Hamas had taken were rescued. I was blown away. Literally, and again, I feel like sometimes people look at me and said, really? But the Washington Post headline said more than 200 Palestinians killed in Israeli hostage raid in Gaza. That's how they framed the rescue of 4 innocent people. It's to basically make light of the Palestinian. I mean, Hamas started this. They took innocent civilians captive. And then the AP doubles down and says Gaza's health ministry, which is a tool of Hamas, says 274 Palestinians were killed in Israeli raid that rescued 4 hostages. So the focus is on the Palestinians, not the people who were rescued.
Yeah. And also over the weekend, a story of one so-called reporter who was putting out pieces boosting that pro-Hamas narrative while also housing hostages in that reporter's home. There were a lot of developments over the weekend, and I appreciate you talking about it because there are a lot of others who are not even mentioning the story from over the weekend. And there was sacrifice on the part of Israelis as well, who gave up their own life in the pursuit of hostages. This is a cost of war. October 7th changed the world. It certainly changed the dynamics between Israel and the existential threats it faces around it. There are still American hostages that right now are being
You wouldn't
held
know that, would
inside
you?
of Gaza.
Yeah,
No,
it blows my mind when these guys all go on the talk shows, including our own president. They don't ever. I can't. If this normally would involve like ribbons on trees and people citing their names. Here are the Americans. They don't get. They get. I am embarrassed for the lack of concern that this country's leadership has for Americans that are being held hostage.
Yeah, as if a poll of Rashida Tlaib and her friends in Dearborn, Michigan should decide whether or not our country cares about Americans being held hostage overseas. I don't give a crap what Rashida Tlaib thinks about whether or not our country should prioritize bringing American hostages home from a war zone. I believe that it should be a top priority. It should be something that the president is speaking about, that our country cannot be allowed to forget of. This weekend was a reminder that while there have been some hostages recovered who have not survived, there are still hostages who hundreds of days later are still fighting for their lives, having been through horrible torture. If Israel had followed the guidance of Joe Biden and this administration based off of their polling in Dearborn, Michigan, there would have been no rescue of these hostages over this past weekend, and there'd be 0% chance of any rescue going forward because of what's coming out of this administration for domestic politics.
Unbelievable. The big issue, I think, for a lot of folks looking at this campaign right now is who Donald Trump is going to pick for vice president, his running mate. You are my dark horse. Have you submitted any information or had any conversations with Donald Trump or his team about being his vice presidential running mate?
Well, as far as my conversations with the president on anything related to this topic within the galaxy of this topic, I have not weighed in on publicly, other than saying that I think President Trump should pick whoever he believes would be his best choice to be vice president. And he has great choices.
He does.
People who have
I think one of them would be you.
Well, no, and I appreciate that, Sean. I think that it's so important for all of us to be prioritizing first and foremost, getting President Trump over the finish line in first. This is the first even year election since 2006 that I'm not a candidate on the ballot this November. And it has been great traveling the country to boost President Trump and not be out there as a candidate for myself. I think that President Trump can really do no wrong in all of the options and picking any of them. I think he would have a very strong and talented running mate, and I'm looking forward to supporting him no matter what he chooses as it relates to picking a vice president. I could see signs that the transition effort of being focused on what to do come January. I believe that his day one is going to be the most effective day one that we've ever seen in this country. His first 100 days will be the most effective 100 days we've ever seen. He spent 4 years in the White House. He gets to come in as someone who not only has been there, done that, but can be more focused and ready with a better team than ever to be more productive than ever, because those 4 years, as you know, go by very quickly.
Yes. All right. That's not a no. Congressman Lee Zeldin, always appreciate you joining us and everything that you've done for the cause. Look forward to having you back and hearing what else is next for you.
Thanks so much, Sean.
You bet. All right. That was amazing, by the way. There are a lot to break down from what Lee said. Think about what happened at the beginning there. There is definitely grounds for a mistrial. And I think that Lee was right. The Trump defense, I'll be fascinating this week to see publicly what they do. I mean, the idea that the judge is sending this letter and then saying, hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. I'd be like, what are you doing about it? You have court resources, court officers, access to other investigative bodies, legal law enforcement bodies. Reach out to them and say, hey, I need to know if this is legit. If it is, that is in grounds. If it's a nut job, then they've committed a crime. But I don't think throwing that out into the ether is helping people have confidence in the judicial system. At a time when the media tells us, oh, we're undermining the judicial system. Wouldn't you want to know if this is real or not? If the fix was in, if there really is a cousin? I would. I do. Sending him a letter saying, hey, we saw this. It's been hanging out for a while. Kind of makes me think that you weren't doing your job. Judge, don't gag me. I just say that, but throwing that out there. Speaking of support, though, Lee mentioned it. It wasn't just that South Bronx rally. I want to show you this Newport Beach crowd. So Trump flies out to Silicon Valley, to California, to do a series of fundraisers. Now, going out surgically, take the plane, you land, you go to the event, you raise the money, and you get out. That's normal. But he's got these rallies out there in California. We're not going to win California. I mean, that's not even on the radar. Sorry. But look at the support that's there that just keeps showing up and coming out. We saw it in the South Bronx. We saw it in New Jersey. And now we're seeing it in California. So while I don't want him spending a ton of time there, and I get it, you were already there, you might as well spend some time. He did a rally in Vegas. He's going out, as Lee mentioned, to Detroit to do this Turning Point event. He's going to, I bet you he's going to be in DC, by the way, for Faith and Freedom. That's coming up. But the number of people that are coming out of the woodwork just to show their support for him is like reminiscent of 2016. People are freaking out. I think it's because we've seen the difference. There's this video that I want to play you right now. There's a woman named Amber Rose. She was married, I guess, to Kanye or Ye, whatever he is. And I want to show you this because this is the fascinating part. Everyone's like, are you brainwashed? What's going on? You're not supposed to be for him. This is her response.
People were shocked with your, endorsement of Donald Trump. I mean, you're all about women's rights issues. I mean, what was the reason for the big change?
Is Donald Trump not for women's rights issues?
I mean, I guess a lot of people were asking.
He's trying to make America great again. That's for women too, right?
That's true. I mean,
okay. So there you go.
I know. Does him getting convicted change the way you view him?
Not at all.
I mean, do you think it'll help his chances getting reelected or you'll hurt him?
I think it helps him more. I think it actually
helps him more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people see the injustice and what happened, and they want to vote for him more than ever.
I know. I wanted to ask you. So it seems like a lot of celebrities are kind of voting for Trump now. I mean, why do you think people are kind of changing their way of
I think we just did our research and we're just, we're not brainwashed anymore by the left. I can say that about myself. All these years I've been brainwashed and
don't you love
I'm not
it?
anymore.
What isn't he for women's rights? They are so ready for everyone on the left to just bow down. Yes, he's against this. He's a horrible person. Why are you voting for him? Why do you think so? Because we did our research. We're not brainwashed anymore. I think this is the thing because of the uniqueness of the selection. Because it's been 100 years since we've had two presidents face off. We have the ability to look at the records. And I tell you this over and over again. It could not be clearer domestically and in foreign policy. It's crystal clear. Everybody is seeing it. And I'm telling you why the way she answered that was perfect. Isn't he for women's rights? Isn't he for this? Well, here's the difference. We try to get into this name calling thing, and that's the only issue, the only thing that the left has. He's mean. He said this. Talk about policies. What's going to make the country better? What's going to make your community safer and stronger? What's going to allow you to bring home more money and prosper more to take care of your family, your kids? Simple questions. It's not complicated. That's the thing. We're not talking about some complicated math problem. Well, if you look at the equation, in year 20, it works out that the policies of Trump... No. This is unbelievably simple. Remember that. And we can prosecute that case. The lawfare's not working. The policies are what's selling this. And anyway, a big story came out over the weekend that I thought was fascinating. This is the thing. Biden's aides show that he was very much involved in his family's business dealings. This is from Politico. Check this out. For years, Joe Biden shared a bookkeeper with his son, Hunter. He also shared a personal lawyer with his brother, Jim. And when Jim Biden wanted to know more about one of Hunter Biden's associates, he hired the former head of Joe Biden's Secret Service detail. Since 2019, Joe Biden has repeatedly distanced himself from his family's business dealings, saying that he's never so much discussed them with his relatives or anyone else. But House impeachment inquiry interviews, public records, and emails reviewed by Politico show that members of his inner circle were regularly immersed in those dealings. Many of the president's closest staffers and advisors have doubled as his relatives, business associates, both during and after their stints working for the man at the center of the Biden orbit. This is a Politico. Remember, this is like the stenographer. This is like the PR part of the Biden campaign writing this. And I'll show you this great little graphic they have showing Biden and all of the connections. Look at that. Wow. Look at all those people connected. Another thing, every time we talk about this, whether or not it matters if the House, look at what Politico says. This is important. House impeachment inquiry, interviews, public records, all that is happening because of a Republican House. We wouldn't have that information. So the next time we think about whether it matters, here's another example. Maintaining the House and picking back up the Senate are critical to helping Donald Trump advance his agenda and to keep the Democrats from pursuing an agenda that is entirely focused on continuing to impeach the guy. Politico was forced to write that story because of the documents and the efforts of the House impeachment effort led by James Comer, Jim Jordan, and others. That's what I'm talking about. Keep in mind that this is what's at stake. Two other things that I wanted to get to today. Jimmy Kimmel, who is the host of a late night show, is hosting a fundraiser because I guess Stephen Colbert did it, so he must do it. Now, I get it. If you watch the show every night or see a clip, you know that they hate the guy. But the idea that the networks are cool with this, and this particularly ABC, who's hosting a debate with one of their hosts openly raising money for the guy, says a lot. That used to be restricted. Here, Kamala was on Kimmel's show. They had to postpone the start of the show because, well, it didn't go well.
Stop the genocide! 15,000 children died because of you! Stop the genocide! You're a murderer! 15,000 children died! Kamala Harris!
It's good to have you back.
I mean, you can actually hear the cackle all the way through all that. The cackle, it still comes through. It's amazing how that works. Amazing.
You're interrupting my flow.
All right. You see that at the end. I know you hear us. Yeah, they heard you. All right. The last thing I want to touch on is this. Caitlin Clark, who played for Iowa and is now with the Indiana Fever, was left off the 12-person Olympic roster for women's basketball. Now, I saw a lot of stuff online that said, do you know what she would do for ratings? Guys, I don't care about the ratings. I don't. Who cares? That's NBC's problem. They're airing the Olympics. I don't really care about the ratings. As an American, I care about the best team. I want to win. I like gold medals. I want America to be number one. She is clearly one of the best players. And they don't want her on this. I want to wrote this. It's one of the citing sources. It says Clark's omission from the team was due in part to, quote, concerns over how Clark's millions of fans would react to what they said would be limited playing time on a stacked roster. Who cares? Your job is to pick the best team to represent the United States and win. What is going on now? I'll tell you what, these guys don't win gold. It's on them. And it's also ridiculous. But I think the outrage about her ratings, which she would have gotten, is ridiculous. Either she was the best player or not. And I think she is. And it's sad that this is what it comes down to. So I hope that there's a change because the Olympic Committee is now being a little cagey. Oh, well, it's not final, blah, blah, blah. All right. Hopefully they do the right thing. But right now, this is ridiculous. All right. Tomorrow, a lot more on Hunter Biden's trial. We're into the final stages now. The jury's got it. Let's see if a Delaware, I don't really have a lot of hope, put it that way. Anyway, see you tonight after the show, live, 7 o'clock. We'll see you back here, though, tomorrow. We got a great show. We're going to continue to break down all of this stuff with the Trump trials, Hunter's trial. Tomorrow, Tune in. We'll see you then. Continue to follow us on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.